A few days later, Lorraine brewed a potion of poison for Rent, who was her research subject. The poison was guaranteed to instantly kill an ordinary human. However, when Rent tried to drink the potion, he remained alive and only felt a usual bitterness. Of course, Lorraine was amazed because Rent was the first to survive and feel the poison. Lorraine had tried various things on Rent, and Rent's body could still endure. Even healing potions and remedies were highly effective for Rent. Rent also had no desire to sleep but felt a slight craving to eat or drink something from a human, be it flesh or blood. Then, Lorraine gave Rent a very useful bottle. When Rent saw and smelled the contents of the bottle, it turned out to be human blood. Lorraine explained that she deliberately provided her blood in the bottle for Rent to consume. Lorraine understood that Rent might still be hesitant to drink human blood, so with that bottle of blood, Rent didn't need to lose control of his body as he did a few days ago. The bottle of blood had been enchanted by Lorraine to preserve it, allowing Rent to drink it regularly. When Rent tried a drop of Lorraine's blood, his body refreshed, and his craving for humans diminished. Rent then told Lorraine to rest because she had been lacking sleep for the past few days. Rent wanted to visit the Adventurers Guild to take on quests and explore the labyrinth. Upon hearing this, Lorraine had a brief conversation with Rent. If Rent went to the Adventurers Guild, it meant he had to show Rent Feina's identification card. This could cause a commotion among the adventurers because Rent had been missing for months and returned with such an appearance. Not only that, Rent would likely face many questions from both adventurers and guild staff. Rent was a renowned adventurer, even though he held the lowest rank. Rent had many abilities and was known for being friendly with novice adventurers. Many teenage adventurers had been helped by Rent Feina. The guild staff had even considered recruiting Rent as part of the Adventurers Guild staff. However, they hesitated to mention it to Rent because they did not see any signs of Rent wanting to retire as an adventurer. Initially, Rent didn't believe Lorraine's words as he considered himself just an ordinary adventurer with the lowest rank. Lorraine sighed deeply and told Rent that he underestimated himself. Lorraine had connections in the Adventurers Guild, and that's how she knew. After some thought, Lorraine came up with an idea to prevent commotion at the Adventurers Guild. She advised Rent to assume a different identity and register it in the guild. Rent's new background would be that of a regular wanderer who happened to aspire to become an adventurer. While it violated the guild's rule against adventurers having two identities, Rent had no intention of committing a crime. Rent went to the Adventurers Guild, where Sheila welcomed him. He registered his name as Rent Vivi, claiming to live at Lorraine's residence. Sheila was surprised and stared at Rent thoughtfully. Sheila said that there was an adventurer named Rent who was declared missing. Rent then mentioned the name Rent Feina in front of Sheila, explaining that Lorraine had told him about Rent Feina. Rent also explained that he was temporarily staying at Lorraine's residence. Sheila said hearing rumors from other adventurers that Rent Vivi frequently visited Lorraine's residence. Sheila's face showed sadness as she hadn't heard any news about Rent Feina, and thought the person going in and out of Lorraine's residence was Rent Feina. Seeing Sheila's saddened expression, Rent thought she must be worried about him and cared deeply. They had known each other since Rent was a teenager. While Sheila created Rent Vivi's identity, Rent thought he had to be careful not to create strange rumors. He carried the Lorraine family name, and Lorraine was a young woman whose reputation he needed to protect. After Rent Vivi's identification card was created, Sheila, still gloomy, advised Rent to take good care of himself. Afterwards, Rent headed to the labyrinth he had visited with Loris before. He also happened to observe the battle between two novice adventurers, Raze and Laura, against goblins and slimes. Rent saw their decent cooperation and thought that if he were still his old self, he would reveal himself and guide the two novice adventurers. Upon reaching the next room after the giant skeleton, Rent saw no apparent danger. Instead, he found shelves filled with books and the condition of someone's room that had not been used for a long time. Rent did not expect to discover an old room in the deepest part of the labyrinth. He also saw a corpse that had become a skeleton there. Shortly after, a woman greeted Rent. In Rent's mind, he understood that he was facing someone powerful. Rent explained that he was an adventurer just exploring the labyrinth and happened to come across this old room. The woman was suspicious of Rent, thinking he might be a thief. For her, certain things were unforgivable as someone tainted her precious place.
消えてください。あなた、その体が。悪いか。俺だって好きでこうなったわけじゃない。
After realizing Rent's figure, she apologized for misunderstanding the situation. The woman kept talking without giving Rent a chance to respond. She opened her robe and gave it to Rent, believing he must be upset with the accusations she made. The woman had a beautiful face with elf-like ears. She also gave Rent a valuable Akasha map. According to her, an adventurer should not return empty-handed from the labyrinth. The Akasha map was a magical tool that automatically mapped the labyrinth explored by its owner, and its layout was permanently stored. The woman also urged Rent not to disclose this place to the Adventurers Guild. The old room was special and precious to her. In this way, their exchange was settled, and their business was concluded. The woman would transfer Rent to the labyrinth's main entrance, hoping they would never meet again. After Rent shared this story with Lorraine couldn't believe how strange and absurd Rent's fate was. Fortunately, Rent was not cursed or anything. Lorraine had also checked the Akasha map and Rent's robe, finding no signs of anomalies. In fact, Lorraine was highly impressed with Rent's robe for its high-level magical resistance, stronger than iron armor. Even a sword would find it difficult to penetrate. Rent then asked Lorraine about how to use the Akasha map. Unfortunately, Lorraine's magical mana did not elicit any response from the map. When Rent tried, the Akasha map revealed the moon's reflection labyrinth that Rent had previously explored. Both Rent and Lorraine could even see the adventurers Rent had encountered, Raze and Laura. When Lorraine instructed Rent to open another moon's reflection labyrinth, they found an area that hadn't been explored. Lorraine was greatly impressed with the magical tool, considering it as valuable as a national treasure. Lorraine was curious about the woman Rent had encountered and the place he had visited. The next day, Rent attempted to revisit the old room, but the labyrinth path leading to it was already closed. Rent wanted to learn more about the woman, but it seemed he wouldn't meet her again. In the evening, Rent took on a significant quest to hunt 3 orcs. Sheila initially prohibited Rent, as orcs were dangerous monsters for novice adventurers. However, Rent convinced Sheila, stating that he was accustomed to killing orcs and knew their strength. After hearing this, Sheila allowed Rent to take on the quest but warned him that if he encountered difficulties, he should return to the guild and not push himself too hard.
命は一つだけだからな。まあ、ミスリルになるためなら何だってやるさ。
私だってあなたのおかげで一人前の職員になれたのに。